Hello and welcome back to my channel. My name is Elizabeth, and on this channel I show you how to use art journaling as a form of spiritual connection, meditation, and personal development. In this video I'm going to show you how I go from drawing a tarot card to creating an art journal spread, as well as how I tap into my own intuitive wisdom, connect with the essence of the divine, and learn a lot more about myself in the process. Ready? Let's get started. I'm going to start out, as I always do, by setting an intention. My intention is to open myself up to whatever message the universe has for me. And then I draw a card. Right now, as you saw, I'm using the Fantastical Creatures Tarot, and the card I pulled is the Knight of Pentacles. I sat with this card for a while before bringing out my art journal. I meditated on it, I put on some soft music in the background, and I just allowed myself to think about the messages coming through in the card. I jotted down some notes in my actual written journal. Things like, chase inspiration. You'll find it everywhere you look. That's what came to me as I looked at this image. A mantra like, you can do this. Go outside your comfort zone and explore. You'll find yourself if you look hard enough. I came up with the quote, anywhere you go, there you are. There are signs everywhere. Pay attention to symbols, to messages, to the world around you. There are messengers everywhere. Are you listening? Everyone you meet has a message meant just for you. Listen, look, live. I wrote all of that down very stream of consciousness, and that was before I even picked up my art supplies and started to create. But what kept coming to me as I looked at this card over and over again, even stronger than all of those other messages that I told you about, was this idea of intentionally using my most precious resources in pursuit of my creative goals. And as I pulled out my art journal and as I started to work very intuitively and very much without a plan and without trying to create anything beautiful or anything that other people would like, I kept this question in my mind. How am I intentionally using my most precious resources in pursuit of my creative goals? And honestly, I thought this was going to be a lot about money, about my art supplies, about the physical things, especially because we're dealing with a Knight of Pentacles, and the Pentacles is very much about the physical, the material, the things that make up the physical reality of our lives. So things like money, as artists, our art supplies, our jobs, our careers, our homes, our studios, all of that stuff, even our bodies and our health. And so as I started to work, again, very loosely, very intuitively, without any preconceived notions of what I'm creating or even why I'm creating what I'm creating, and not trying to link my creation and my art journal piece with the tarot card, but rather just letting myself meditate on the message of the card as I created. The thing that I realized as I worked on this piece is that the resource that I am most struggling with when it comes to my art isn't money, it's time. It's this idea of time scarcity, of there never ever being enough time. And I was confronted with this because I had set aside 30 minutes to do this art journal piece. And as I worked on it, and as I struggled with it, and as I had a really hard time making it look the way I wanted it to look, and again, not because I was trying to create something beautiful, but because I wanted to be happy with it, because I wanted it to really resonate with my soul when I was done. I wanted it to feel done. And it took me a lot longer than I expected. As you'll see as you watch me create, I redid this face probably a dozen times. And that took a while. It certainly took a lot longer than half an hour. And so as I worked, and as I looked at the Knight of Pentacles, which was just off to the side as I was creating, I kept coming up with this question, how am I intentionally using my most precious resource in pursuit of my creative goals? And that is the same question that I would like to ask you. How are you intentionally using your most precious resources, whatever those might be? Your energy, your time, your money, something else entirely? How are you using those in pursuit of your creative goals? What are you doing that is intentional? And where are you acting out of habit and routine? And, well, this is what I've always done. This is how it always is. I've actually created a worksheet for you to work through that question along with a few others, and I'm going to put a link to it down below in the description box, and I invite you to download it and work through some of those questions because I think they are so vital to us as artists. The resources that we have, some of them are renewable. Money, for example, we can always make more, but some of them are limited. And when we think about those limited resources, like our time, like our energy even, our energy, yes, is renewable. We can get more of it, but not in the moment, right? Not once we've spent it. That energy that we had to give that day to our art, to our life, is gone. And so are you using it in the way that you want to use it? Or do you find yourself just working on autopilot, just going on autopilot, living your life on autopilot? And if that's the case, then how can you take a step back and really ask yourself, all right, knowing that I have this much of this particular resource, how do I want to spend it to attain my creative goals? So again, you'll notice that my journal spread has nothing to do with that question. That is a question that I was mulling over in the back of my head because it keeps me from getting too hung up on the result of what is actually coming out of my brush and my paint on this art journal. When I'm not using my brain to meditate on a question that comes through, for example, the tarot card that I pulled, when I'm just sitting down to work and I sit down with a particular idea or a particular focus, there's nothing wrong with that, but it engages a different part of my brain, and that part of my brain is a lot more critical and judgmental, and I have to then navigate those thoughts as opposed to giving my brain a task of something else to focus on, in this case, this question about resources and how I'm spending them. So you'll notice that what I ended up creating is this image of a woman also meditating, and I was drawn to pull out some found poetry. I don't know why. I, again, work very intuitively, and the phrase that really stuck out to me that I cobbled together from the left-hand side of the page, because I'm working on an old book. It's actually a book about King Arthur. It is the King Arthur legend. And the phrase that stuck out to me is, "She was never anything really after his wedding day." I just found that so profound and intriguing, and a lot of my work really starts out with some enigmatic bit of poetry. My work always involves words of some sort, probably comes from having an English literature degree and spending a decade as a published author of romance novels. I need words in my life. I need storytelling. I need all of that in combination with the visual aspects of the art. And so that's how I work. But really, at the core of what I'm doing is this act of sacred meditation. It's this act of getting to know myself better, really understanding what I'm thinking and what is happening in my life and in my world, and using this opportunity not just to dive deeper into myself, but also to intentionally make a plan of how I want to move through the world going forward. And I find that prompts, which come so beautifully through tarot cards, although you don't have to use tarot cards, you can get your journaling prompts from anything and everything. I find that they're a really great way to explore some of those questions that maybe you wouldn't have an opportunity to sit with and think about if you were just going about your everyday life. So again, I would like to invite you to download that worksheet if you're interested in examining some of these questions for yourself. Questions of resources are so important to us as artists because Whether we like it or not, we are constantly using our resources. We're constantly needing to refill our well, whether that is an inner well or an actual physical well. If you're having to refill your paints, get new paints, refill the water that you're using because it got dirty, whatever the case might be, you're always having to work with the resources that you have. And the more intentional you can be with that, the more you can sit with what you have, understand how you're using it, and then decide how you want to use all of it going forward, well, the happier you're going to be overall with the results that you're getting from the way that you're spending those resources. And just think, all of that came from pulling the Knight of Pentacles. If I had pulled a different card today, I would be asking myself a different question. I would be coming up with different answers. And they would be just as relevant and just as important to my overall well-being and personal and spiritual development as a human, as a woman, as a mother, and as an artist. Thank you so much for being with me today. I hope that you got what you needed out of watching this video. I hope that you will take me up on my invitation to work with those prompts and figure out how you are using your most precious resources in order to create your art and to live your best, most authentic, most meaningful, creative life. I will see you again next week as I offer you more prompts and more art journaling inspiration stemming from a tarot card. See you then.